Welcome to today's presentation on how to go solar and storage. I am so glad you're able to join today. We're going to get right into it. So today we're going to review how solar and storage works. Is your home right for solar and how you can know? We're going to review energy storage, incentives for home battery storage as well as solar, and how you can get started. A little bit more about Solar Oregon. My name is Nicole, and I'm a program manager at the nonprofit Solar Oregon. We're a 503c nonprofit that is member-based and have been around since 1979. We provide education, like this workshop here, as well as we host Solarize campaigns and do outreach in the community and some policy advocacy. We have some ways you can join us if you're interested in learning more about Solar Oregon's work. So you can sign up to be a member or donate or join us at an event. We do have a couple of exciting events coming up. We are going to have a green energy series about how to insulate and ventilate your home. And that'll be on April 6th, which is a Saturday. We also have another event that will be coming up and will be posted shortly for Earth Day, Oregon. We're going to be doing a neighborhood cleanup where our offices are located and be connecting with community members there. And then we have our annual solar winery tour, which is coming up May 4th. So we hope you can join us at some of these future events. I'm also going to put some helpful links in the chat to our website and other resources that I'll be calling out during this presentation. This presentation is supported by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon is an independent nonprofit that was established in 2002 that provides resources to help enable customers of investor-owned utilities in our state to use energy efficiently and gain access to renewable energy. So they offer key incentives for solar installation and also added a incentive for home battery storage late last year. So thank you, Energy Trust. And then some just quick housekeeping. We are just going to have you put any questions you have throughout this webinar in the Q&A. We'll be using the chat to post resources and links to resources. But yes, if you do have a question, please put it in the Q&A. We want to make sure we get to it during the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So be sure to use that. And feel free to add them throughout the entire presentation. They'll just build up there and then we'll get to them in the Q&A section. And then I'm just going to put those links in the chat one more time here at the beginning of the presentation, and then also put them in at the end just to make sure that everyone has access to those. And then we're also going to launch some polls that help us know if where you're joining from today and help us see where our education is reaching for these webinars. So I'll go ahead and launch those polls now. The first one is where you're joining from. Our offices are based in Portland, Oregon, but we do events all across the state. And of course, our virtual events are open to everyone. We will record this webinar as well and post it on our YouTube, so you can revisit it there if you'd like, or check out some of our other great webinars. Our next one is a demographics poll. So that just helps us see who we're reaching in the community. We want to be sure to make our education accessible. And then the third poll we are launching right now is just to get your familiarity with incentives. So I'll go ahead and launch that. Great. Well, thank you so much for completing those polls. That really helps us so we can keep providing free and accessible education on solar and storage throughout the state. And now we'll just get right into the presentation. So first we're going to look at solar. This is a diagram of a typical solar system. You can see the house pictured in the middle. And if you look to the left, you can see the photovoltaic or PV panel. So this is the solar panel where the sun will hit and this will then produce a voltage of electricity that is called DC or direct current. And then that electricity will flow to another special component called an inverter or microinverter. And this will be converting that DC electricity into the AC electricity that can be used by your home. And then from the inverter, that AC electricity will flow into your breaker box and then into the circuits of your home where it can power your lights and appliances. And then since this is an example of a grid-tied solar system, you can see that it's connected to the utility meter. If you're producing more electricity than you're using in any given moment, the excess energy will flow out of your home and onto the electric grid. And it can be used there by other homes and customers. And then at moments where maybe your solar is not producing as much electricity, you can also pull from the grid. So we'll talk a little bit more about that process when we get to net metering in the presentation. We'll take a closer look at inverters and microinverters. So that was that component in the diagram that would convert that DC electricity to AC electricity. And so you can see on the left, it's an example of a string inverter where all your panels are connected together. And on the right is a microinverter. And so microinverters will be connected to one or two panels. They both work well. It's just going to depend on the design of your system and what will best fit your needs. There are two ways to mount solar in Oregon. There's roof mounting and ground mounts. Roof mount is going to be a lot more common in residential spaces, but if you do have more land, ground mount might be something you want to consider. Another technology we get asked about is solar roof tiles. And so these solar roof tiles or solar shingles are both a roofing product as well as a solar panel. Multiple brands of solar tiles exist, but the most common is probably heard of the Tesla solar tiles. And so if that is a technology you're looking to explore, it's really important to check with some contractors who have experience installing this technology and even maybe asking them for a referral from one of their customers who they've completed one of these projects on. This can be more expensive than traditional solar panels. All right, as mentioned earlier, we're going to get a little bit into net metering here. So net metering is the process that allows you to account for the energy you export so you can gain credit for it. This is why it is important to have a solar system at your home that matches what you consume. So basically here in this diagram, we can see that in a typical summer month, you might be producing more with your solar, which is depicted by the orange bar. And then you can see the blue bar is depicting what you consume in your home for electricity. And the difference between these is going to be net metering credit earned since you produced more solar than you consumed. And then we know winter months here get cloudy and rainy, so you would be able to produce less with your solar. And so you might need to pull from the grid at that time. So the way net metering works is that it starts on April 1st. So you can build up those credits on your bill during those sunny summer months, and then you can then pull from that bank when you might be producing less solar during those winter months. The reason why it's super important to size the system correctly is, let's say you produced way more solar than you consumed, you have a ton of extra credits that helped you through the winter, but you still have a bunch left on March 31st. Those credits do expire before the next net metering year starts on April 1st. So you want to be matching your system to your consumption so that you're covering the winter months, but not having a bunch of unused credits at the end of the year. Here's an example of what an energy bill might look like if you are using a grid-tied system. So here you can see the service period, the net consumption meter reading, excess generation meter reading, and then what's highlighted at the bottom is you can see you've built up credits. So you've built up credits here that you can then use later in the year because those credits roll over month to month. You might be asking, okay, well, I had net metering credit earned here. Why is my bill not zero? And that is due to this being a grid tied system. You are still connected to the grid, so there are some grid connection fees, and these can vary depending on where your location is. So you still won't have a $0 bill, but you will have a much like a smaller bill than the typical $70 and up per month. So this is just demonstrating how those credits would work and what it would look like on your bill. Solar is highly modular, and residential solar is varies based on location and what your goals are of your system. A system size is measured in kW or kilowatts, and the average residential system is about 8 kilowatts, give or take. So how do you determine what size you should get? Well, the biggest factor is going to be how much energy you consume. So the goal with your system would be to meet but not exceed your estimated annual consumption. If you're expecting to install appliances or like an EV, you'll want to definitely discuss that with your contractor so you can make sure you're sizing your system for what your goals of your home are. So now that we've looked at the basics in a system and the basics of solar, we're going to jump right into how do you know if your home is right for solar? Regardless of your location in the state, the orientation of your roof has a huge impact on your solar access. So this diagram shows a home and its orientation with respect to the cardinal directions. The arcs over the home show the path of the sun in the summer and the winter. Regardless of the season, the sun will always be in the southern sky. So this means south-facing roofs are ideal to install solar on. However, both west and east-facing roofs can work great. North-facing roofs will not be installed on because you're not going to get that solar resource that would make it worthwhile. Even if you have a perfectly south-facing roof, shade from objects like trees or other buildings can prevent you from accessing that solar resource. So that's something that you'll want to consider if you're thinking about going solar. If you request a free bid from a contractor, they can also look at how much solar resource you're accessing, either through satellite imagery or by coming out to the site and assessing that. Another factor is going to be roof complexity. So if you have a really simple roof like the one shown on the right, it's going to be easier to install an array that's uninterrupted. If you have a more complex roof, that's going to make the system a little bit more complex. It doesn't mean you can't go solar, but it just means that your system might look a little different. And then in a situation where maybe you have more land, If your roof isn't ideal for solar, maybe you can consider a ground mount. The biggest factor that can affect whether you're going to go solar or not is the condition of your roof. Your roof will need to be replaced when it reaches the end of its lifetime. And when you do that, you'll have to pay a solar contractor to uninstall and reinstall the system. The service can cost $10,000 or more, so it's important to plan ahead. So we recommend having at least 20 plus years of life on your roof before you install solar. That's because many of the solar panels have a warranty for 20 to 25 years. So if you need to get re-roofed, it's good to plan that with your installation. So you can get that brand new roof and then add solar so that you know the life of your roof and your panels are going to match. So you don't have to pay for that on installation. And different roof types have different lifetimes, so you want to consider that. Solar can be installed on many different types of roofs. Roof structure also can impact your ability to go solar. So in order to get building permits for your installation, your contractor will get inside your attic and check the structure of your roof. Some jurisdictions have more specific permitting and rules than others, so that's something to take into account. Multnomah does have some more stricter permitting rules. Newer homes tend to have trusses, which are shown on the left. And those extra vertical horizontal support beams usually will meet the standards. But if you have rafters, depending on how they are constructed, they still might be suitable for solar. So really your contractor is going to assess it and let you know. All right, now we're going to take a look at home battery storage. It's important to know that your solar system by itself does not allow you to use your solar electricity during a power outage. To do this, you'll need to add a battery. And so the ability to use power when the grid is down is called energy resilience. And solar and battery storage are complementary to each other. So solar makes a battery more effective by recharging it, and your battery allows you to access your solar independently from the grid. Here's a look at an example of a home solar and storage system. You can see the battery installed in the garage here on the left and rooftop solar on the right. And as we said before, solar is highly modular, so your system might look different than this. Power outages vary in their causes and frequency. Frequent short outages are usually caused by storms, squirrels, and in some areas, slightly longer outages can also happen in the summer during red flag weather conditions when there's high fire danger. And they have to do a public safety power shutoff. So we've experienced this here in Oregon. And as weather changes, we could see more of these. Also in the Pacific Northwest, we face the unique risk of a large earthquake, the Cascadia earthquake. And so when this occurs, it is thought that power might be lost in the Willamette Valley for up to 6 weeks. And on the coast, it might take months for power to get up and running. So it's important to know what type of outage you're looking to endure when you are getting a battery, and really thinking about what the goals are of that system. If you're just looking to have a battery just so that you can withstand some smaller outages, you probably would only do 1 or 2. But if you're looking to withstand a really long outage, that's going to be a conversation you're going to want to have with your contractor, because you might need to think about how you can maximize your battery storage. All right, so when it comes to picking a battery, there are many good products on the market. However, due to manufacturer certifications, many contractors specialize in one brand. So for this reason, you'll want to compare different battery technologies and compare multiple quotes from different contractors. It's important to remember that you cannot mix and match battery brands. Though some battery manufacturers have different size battery modules that you can combine. So If you are getting a Tesla battery, you're going to stick with Tesla batteries. If you're going to get phase battery, you would stick with Enphase batteries. But they have different sizing. And so many batteries come between 10 to 14 kilowatt hours. But you can get smaller ones that are 3 to 4, or larger ones that are around 20 kilowatt hour capacity. So you can definitely mix and match sizes. There are two major battery chemistries right now: nickel, manganese, cobalt, and lithium iron phosphate. So lithium iron phosphate are a bit more common right now. And for standard household electrical loads like lights and appliances, many batteries will work well. If you are intending to use the battery to back up a load that requires a lot of instantaneous power, such as a motor or generator, you'll want to loop in your contractor there so they can factor that into the design. It's important to set your expectations about what a battery can do and what it cannot do. Even if you don't use much electricity, a single battery will not back up an entire home for a significant amount of time. However, you can do what is called a partial home backup. And in this scenario, certain circuits in your home will be put to connect to the battery so that you can just power those select circuits when the power is out. So if you are looking to do home backup, usually partial backup is a little bit more affordable, and you can select lights or essentials like a refrigerator or a few outlets so you can charge cell phones and laptops and back that up without having to have a lot of batteries. When you do get a partial home backup, the way you divide your home into sections that are backed up and sections that are not is based on the breakers in your electrical panel. So when you've selected the circuits you'd like to receive battery power, your contractor will remove those and place them into a newly installed essential loads panel. And this is second electrical panel will then be wired to the battery. There are some new technologies like smart electrical panels that allow you just to have the one panel, and you can still have that partial backup utilizing that instead of having that additional essential loads panel. Battery sizing entails a discussion about what your priorities are, really thinking about two main questions: what will need power and for how long? Items most frequently chosen to back up include a refrigerator, lights, and a few outlets, like we mentioned earlier. And if you're interested in installing a battery, when you install it, it can affect both the design and the price. So you really want to think about if you are looking to install a battery, it can cost more if you install your solar and don't plan for the battery, because things might need to be moved around to accommodate that battery. And so usually adding battery and storage together will save you a little bit of money as opposed to doing them separately. And battery storage in your home does require a large amount of space. So there's certain rules from the National Electric Code that the location of battery has to meet. So it cannot be in a cupboard or crawl space. Sometimes it's installed in a garage or on the side of the house, but it will depend on code and need to comply with that. All right, so now let's take a look at incentives that are available if you're installing storage and solar. So the first one you might have heard of is the Solar Investment Tax Credit, or ITC. This is a dollar for dollar tax credit, meaning that you can reduce your taxes you owe by 30% of the cost of your solar and or battery storage installation. And it's an incentive that you don't receive immediately. You would apply for it when you file your taxes. So note that if you don't owe any tax liability that year that you install solar and or storage, you can apply it and claim this credit over a few years. I am not a tax professional, so I just want to disclaimer that. So we do recommend that you do consult a tax professional if you're looking to claim this credit for solar and home battery storage. That'll ensure that you are claiming it correctly, and that's just kind of the best route for that. But that being said, we just want to share some things because there's a lot of information on the internet about this. And a big one is there's a lot of conflicting information about what you can claim and what you cannot claim. And usually installing a new roof is not part of this tax credit. So it's really for installing of the solar system as well. If you decide to get home battery storage, you can also claim it for installing home battery storage. There are other incentives in our state for energy efficiency. So if you need to make upgrades to your home, you can check those out and see if those might be able to help you when you're looking to make your home more efficient before you install solar. The Energy Trust of Oregon standard incentive is also available, and that is $400 for PGE customers and $450 for Pacific Power customers. This is an incentive that you would receive immediately, and your contractor actually would apply for it for you. And then they also have a storage incentive, which they added last year. And so this is $250 per kilowatt hour of storage installed up to $3,000. So if you've been thinking about a battery for a long time, this is a pretty good incentive to access that will help your costs there. And so you receive these incentives when you install solar and or storage at the same time or separately. And it's important that you go through a trade ally contractor. You cannot access these incentives if you don't use a trade ally contractor. So Energy Trust has a solar bid tool, which I've shared the link in the chat for, where you can get connected to trade ally contractors who are pre-vetted and can help you get a free bid for your system. And then Energy Trust also has a solar within reach incentive. This is an income qualified incentive, and it allows you to get $1 per watt up to $6,000 for solar, or if you're PGE, a PGE customer, it's 90 cents per watt up to $5,400. And then for storage, they have a $750 per kilowatt hour incentive up to 10,000. So they have this incentive available, and you can find more on Energy Trust. For example, for a household of 4, the income threshold is $120,252. So even if you don't consider yourself low income, it's worth checking out to see if you meet the income requirements. So that way you can access it if you're able. And before we look at some example budgets of solar and storage, I just want to review some reasons why the costs vary. So we did say earlier that solar and storage are highly customizable, so that can impact the price. So the system size, re-roofing, structural analysis, or structural reinforcement, if your site needs that, are all going to impact the price. And then for battery storage, it does depend if you're installing solar and storage at the same time. Like we mentioned, if you install battery to an existing solar system, sometimes there might be some additional costs to connect the system together or redesign the current system. So if you are thinking about having solar paired with storage, it's good to communicate that to your contractor so you can plan ahead. installation, like where the battery is installed, how far do the conduit runs need to be, can impact the cost, as well as adding different panels like the essential loads panel or having multiple batteries can impact the cost as well. So here is an example budget for a system if you're getting just solar, and these are just estimates just to give you a ballpark so you can see some numbers, but these can vary based on, you know, your system, what your needs of your system are, and the contractor you work with. So just keep that in mind. So for solar, you can access the 400 or 450 incentive, and that is the one that your contractor will be applying for you. And so that's an upfront incentive. And then the federal tax credit you would get after you pay for the system or after you install the system. So when you are filing your taxes, you would then want to apply for that tax credit so that you can get that deducted from your tax liability. And you can claim that over a few years. And then in the columns to the right, you can see for income qualifying Pacific Power PGE customers, you can access additional Energy Trust incentives with Solar Within Reach that can help make your system more affordable. And then this is an example of if you got solar and storage together. So again, these are just estimates. Because you are adding storage, Energy Trust, you can get that Energy Trust storage incentive, which is a little bit larger. And so you can see the incentive you can access is bigger across the board. And then for federal tax credit, you can still claim that, and that can be applied to both solar and home battery storage. And it doesn't matter when you install them. You can still access that. And again, with that, the federal tax credit, if you're thinking about applying for this, it's great to confer with your tax professional to make sure that you claim that properly. Because solar and battery storage entail a large upfront sum, many customers will utilize financing. And so some homeowners will obtain a loan through their bank with which they have an existing account and relationship. But some banks do not provide loan products that are tailored to solar. So that's something to keep in mind. Your contractor might also partner with a credit union or third-party broker that offers a package geared towards solar. And these types of loans allow you to refinance when you claim the ITC or federal tax credit, which can minimize the interest you owe on that loan. And then just something to remember, the interest payments on your loan will not qualify for the tax credit. And as with any major financial decision, it's important to review this with your household and also any financial advisor you'd like. But it just take time to consider your financing options. And a big thing with that too is trying to get at least 3 quotes from 3 different contractors so you can see what all your options are. All right, so we've learned about incentives, solar and storage. And so how would you get started? Here is the link. I'll put it again in the chat for the solar bid tool through Energy Trust of Oregon. They have trade allies, like I said, that are pre-vetted. And so if you go on the bid tool and let them know what you're looking for, submit that request, they will connect you with trade ally contractors who install solar, and those contractors then can come and assess your site or chat with you on the phone and use satellite software to assess your site. And if you like what you see, then you can decide to sign a contract. But it's great that the bids are free, so it doesn't hurt to check and see if it's the right decision for you. And then that's another look at the bid tool. The form only takes about 3 to 5 minutes to complete, and just helps ensure that you're getting connected with a reputable contractor. Once you've selected your contractor and signed your contract, this is what you can expect for timeline. Your contractor will handle the permitting. They'll also apply for the Energy Trust of Oregon state incentives on your behalf and design your system. Although your system design can be pretty quick, some jurisdictions have permitting that takes a little longer. Multnomah County has some stricter permitting requirements, so that could take longer. And then for installation, once the permits are approved, installation only takes 1 to 2 days. So installation itself is pretty quick. And then your contractor will manage the inspections and the interconnection of your system to the grid. And interconnection can take a week or two, depending. And once it is interconnected, you'll have a system that will be producing clean and renewable energy power, and you can access it just from the sun that's falling on your property. So really exciting stuff. We're going to jump right to the Q&A now. So if you think of any of the questions, please put them in the chat and we will go through questions at this time. All right. So first question is about the federal tax credit, and what is the difference between solar and storage credit? And you've been contacted by companies saying that they would get the federal tax credit. So first part of that question, it's 30% tax credit dollar for dollar, and that would be deducted from like the taxes you owe. So you need tax liability for this to benefit you, and it can be claimed over a few years. Solar and storage have the same amount. It's 30%. So whatever your out-of-pocket cost is, it would be 30% of that. And it can be applied to solar and storage. Just keep in mind that like things like re-roofing aren't covered. And then solar companies, if they're saying that they get the credit, it's probably through financing. So if you're financing your system and you get the loan through them, that could be based on how the loan works. Next question. So this is about PGE and how net metering work, and saying, can the rate and agreement by PGE be changed? And so it can be changed, but usually if they change it, there's usually some type of grandfather clause in there to keep things similar for those who already have installed. If you guys have been following policy, Idaho Power has changed their net metering system. And so it is possible that PG will propose to change their net metering system. But it is common if there are changes made that there's some type of grandfather clause in there for those who've already installed. Without having received a proposal from PGE on what that change is going to be, we're not sure at this time, but as of right now, net metering still is the same with PGE here. But if you guys are curious and want to stay in the loop on that conversation, I definitely recommend in the chat connecting with us on our newsletter, as we'll be sending out updates as we hear about net metering changes. All right, next question. Does installation labor also qualify for the tax credit? That's a good question. I'm not a tax professional, so I don't want to like say yes or no, because I don't want to lead you astray. but usually the way the federal tax credit works is it looks at your out-of-pocket costs, so what the contractor bills you to install solar and storage, or one or the other, and you get 30% dollar for dollar. And that would be then taken off of the tax dollars you owe for that year. But definitely check with your tax professional. You want to make sure that you do that correctly. And like I said, you need tax liability for it to work. And okay, if you are installing Tesla or other roof tiles, does the tax credit still apply to these? I believe because it's solar still, you can apply for the tax credit for that. Okay, another question. So this question is about not having a grid tied system. So can you install solar and battery to a detached ADU without tying it to the grid? And so there are systems that you can install that are not grid tied, and you just would want to check with your contractor and how they can map that depending on where you live. So really requesting a bid, getting them out so they could look at the site. But some individuals do decide to have off-grid systems. And when thinking about that, if you're going to be off-grid, you probably would need more battery backup to support that. So thank you so much for coming today. If you have more questions, feel free to email us at info@solaroregon.org, and we'll do our best to research that as well as connect you with resources. If you do find out that your home is not right for solar based on roof orientation, things like that, there's also community solar, which is available in our state. And community solar can help you still get a discount on your electric bill, as well as you can still be part of solar and be supporting renewable energy.